Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions on the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, music, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. And social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is a Canadian artist. His new single, Remember, is out now. We are with Tyler Shaw. Tyler, welcome to Popternative.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I find it interesting because, whether people work in, the entertainment industry like TV or film, or they're a musician, they're all like, I categorize them all as storytellers. Because
Right.
you're telling a story essentially. So take us through the time where Tyler Shaw decided and knew that storytelling was something you wanted to do.
Wow. Let's take it back then. I'm 27 now. Let's go back to when I was 13 years old. When I first picked up a guitar, I taught myself how to play. The first day I picked up the guitar was the first day I wrote my first song.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of when I fell in love with the craft of creating music and storytelling, as you call it. I had no idea that I would be able to do this for a career. I always thought it was just a passion that you do while you're doing a real job, so to speak. But I was fortunate enough to meet Sony back in 2012, and we had great discussions, and I released my first song called Kiss Goodnight, and that one really set my career up. And I was like, I am so in love with this, and I love lyrics, and I love melodies, and I love creating these real stories, but also fictional stories for people to listen to.
Absolutely. And your new single just got released called Remember. Talk to us a little bit about that, but also talk to us a little bit about the process. When was that song kind of put together? Because we do know that a lot of things were on hold because of quarantine.
I know for sure. Actually, so this song, Remember, was written last summer, so summer 2019. And I connected with Frank Walker, who co-wrote and co-produced this song, when he did a remix of my song With You. And he hit me up and he's like, let's get in the studio together. Let's create something together instead of me just doing a remix to your song. I was like, absolutely, no brainer. Let's do this. So it was myself, Frank, and a guy named Nick Enriquez, who they're both EDM dance world producer, writer guys. So this was a whole new world for me, but I loved it. We had such a fun session. You can imagine if you're listening back to the song, you can see how much fun the music is.
Oh, for sure.
It was such a fun session, and we wrote it in about 4 to 5 hours, and cut the vocals that day. And when I got the demo back, because the demo that we wrote to that day was just the guitar and a kick drum, and I brought the guitar lick in and whatever, we did our thing, and then they took it and made it into the dance song. So
absolutely, no, for sure. So I want to do a cool segment with you. Every time I have, an artist on, I like to get my viewers, a chance to kind of talk, get a chance to get to know the artist and get to know their different songs. So I'm going to do a segment called Name 3, where I'm going to have you kind of name 3 specific songs of Tyler Shaw based on kind of the categories. Now, we're going to do Name 2 because the third one I often ask is the trendy, newer song, and that's obviously Remember. So
gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
Okay. So the other 2 though I want to know is dancey kind of upbeat song. I mean, you have a lot of them, but I'm sure there's one specifically that comes to mind. And then the second one would be the song that they're all important to you, but is there a song that specifically holds a very close place to your heart? Is there a song about a specific moment in time? So usually it's dancey, heartfelt, and trendy. That's the Name 3.
Okay. Dancey, honestly, Remember's the danciest I've ever gone.
I was about to say it's not it's a bit different than what your past releases.
Yeah, and you know what? I was a bit worried because I didn't want people to be like, "Oh, he's going straight up down the middle dance now." That's not the case. I have tons of ballads, tons of love songs coming down the pipeline that'll be released later in 2020, and then early on in 2021 before the album.
Yeah.
But I can't think of any dancier song than that.
However, I will say though, to go on the other side of that, about like
Yeah.
for the people that are saying about like the people that were worried about you changing your style, I will just say to address, and you'll agree with me here, that artists grow. It
Yes,
happens. You know
100%.
what I mean?
100%. Yes, I totally agree with you. And the rest of the album, including Remember, is definitely a growth from Intuition.
Yeah,
So very, very excited about it.
absolutely.
A song that is close to my heart. It's so tough. It's such a tough, one of the toughest questions for me to answer because I pour my heart and soul
To all of them,
into
absolutely.
every single one, and they mean something different, but they're just as deep. Um, I think, With You is definitely up there because I wrote it for my wife, and where I see our future going together, and that was the year we got married as well. So it's a lot, like definitely a lot of emotion of love there. But then there's songs like on my on Intuition. There's a song called "Help Me," which
Yeah.
I wrote for a family member who was going through a lot of anxiety and depression. So
Yeah.
it's tough, man. It's tough to narrow down just one, but those two are definitely super special to me.
And what I find interesting about Tyler Shaw as an artist is, and I talked to you before this, I mean, my mom is a big fan of your music, listens to The Man Who Let Her Go
Yeah.
all the time, you know what I mean? Is you do have a diverse range, age-wise and demographic-wise, of listeners from all over the world. Have you ever thought about that at one point?
I have, and most recently with the release of Remember, seeing a lot of the Spotify ads and messages coming through, a lot in Southeast Asia, actually, like Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. It's incredible to see the support grow because I started my career in Canada,
Yep.
and now we're expanding, and I am so thankful because, as cliche as it sounds, literally I would not be here if it wasn't for the fans who are streaming the music, coming to shows, buying the merch, and all of that, really supporting me. So
Yeah,
it means a lot. Yeah.
absolutely. Diving away from music for a little bit, I mean, it's
Sure.
always important, like when people can, to wear as many hats as possible and kind of dive into different facets. And
Yeah.
you dabbled here and there in, the entertainment industry and the movie industry. You've been in a few movies, you worked on some movies. Like, talk a little bit about when you decided that you were going to kind of dive into that stuff as well, not just only the music.
Yeah. My older brother, Matt, he is an actor, but he was always an actor growing up. Like he loved theater, he loved movies, he loved all that stuff. So that kind of rubbed off on me at a young age. But the first like real acting experience, because I've done like background work and I've done a few theater things here and there. But back in, oh my gosh, when was that? 2016, I think.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, director Kat Hutstick, she created this feature film that was so incredible. The script was so amazing that I had to try out for it. So we got together, and I was a lead in a feature film, which was incredible to be a part of. It was such a cool world to be in because that was my very first time being in front of camera in that type of way, memorizing lines and being an actor, which was so hard. It was so tough.
No, absolutely. I also wanted to kind of ask you, I mean, you mentioned you're a Canadian artist, and your songs are getting love on other like globally as well. But specifically, and I'm talking like before COVID, like because obviously COVID's changing a lot of things in the music industry right now. But as a Canadian artist, I want to know in the last like couple of years, what are some things you were noticing about the Canadian music scene and the Canadian music kind of landscape in terms of trends? Were you noticing certain genres getting more love than others? Were you noticing more kind of Spotify playlists with Canadian artists? Like, was there anything you were noticing trend-wise and that was kind of positive for the Canadian music scene in the last couple of years, Tyler?
Man, it has changed so much in the last
Oh, yeah.
8 years. I've been doing this professionally for 8 years, and the streaming scene has just skyrocketed and changed the game completely. But specifically talking about Canadian music and the Canadian music scene, we are on the map. I feel like people a lot of the time would just, oh, Canada, whatever. Half the people are on top of the charts right now: Drake, The Weeknd, Shawn Mendes, Alessia Cara, Justin Bieber. Those are 5 major international artists who are Canadian. And a lot of people don't know that. So thanks to those guys, they've paved the way, really in the last decade, for Canada to be on the map. Oh, there's a young artist coming out of Canada. Let's actually pay attention because he or she could be the next big thing.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Spotify and streaming, and people are diving into that. But I mean, you gotta give love to radio, because I feel like radio is kind of the spot too where Tyler Shaw, like, that's where I like discovered you. You know what I mean? Like, that's where like your songs would be on the radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people are still listening to radio, but it's
Yeah,
shifting. But radio was like, will always kind of hold a place in your heart, right, Tyler?
Oh no, absolutely. I give a lot of thanks to radio, because that's, people are listening to radio, and I don't think just because streaming there, I don't think radio is on a decline whatsoever. I think
it's not. I'm just saying there's another medium now to listen to music, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But at one point, like, radio was the only way we were to discover artists like Tyler Shaw.
Right.
When I find it interesting. What has been one of the coolest kind of moments or opportunities for Tyler Shaw in his music career so far? So have you gotten to play with someone? Have you got to collaborate with someone? Is there a cool moment at a show? Like, can you name like 2 or 3 kind of moments that kind of stand out, like, from your career? Like, any really cool things?
First off, hearing my song on the radio for the first time, I'll never forget that. That was unbelievable. It was a station out in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island.
Shout out to the Charlottetown Islanders in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League.
There you go. So that definitely is a memory that I'll never forget. Another one would probably being playing music for like live audiences. I used to play in bars, growing up, not in bars, and like coffee shops and stuff, to like 20 people max. And then seeing that first professional concert of mine, going from 100 to 200 to 300, 400, 500, it goes up and up and up. That's a memory that's continued to bring me joy. It's just like you're seeing this progress. And my most recent highlight, I'd have to say, is back in 2019, the Junos. I played just myself, just me and an acoustic guitar. I played with you on the Juno stage in front of everyone there, and obviously the broadcast. And right before I went on, David Foster and I, we were talking, because the day prior to the actual Junos, we did something called the Songwriter Circle. And that's when I think there's 4 or 5 different artists on stage, and we share the story about the songs that you play. And I was sitting beside David Foster, and we were just talking the entire time. So right before I get on stage, he's hanging out with Sting, and I'm there just kind of like watching them in awe, because I'm like, fuck, it's Sting. Look at that. Holy shit, David Foster. Like, where the fuck am I? Where am I right now? And first of all, Sting comes over, and I'm holding my guitar. I'm like, holy shit, like, hey Sting, like, how are you? He's like, is your guitar in tune? I was like, yeah, it is, but I'm gonna double check for you right now. So I go tune it. And then David Foster comes, and we're like crossing paths like this. And David looks at me, he's like, Tyler, it was really nice to meet you. And I was like, it's nice to meet you too. And he says, I expect greatness from you, nothing less. I'm like, holy fuck, no pressure, So that was like a highlight of mine, to have David Foster, someone of his caliber in the music industry, nice to meet you, I expect greatness. Those words hit me and will forever stay with me. So.
Incredible. And it's like, I just feel like it, like, acts of kindness and little, like, it's one of those things too where he said that to you, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, he might not know how much that kind of stuck with you for the rest of your career. You know what I mean?
Or he did know, and he's like, yeah, this motherfucker. This guy.
No, because I hear that all the time. Like, someone said something to someone like, hey man, that was really awesome. And like, people just said that. And then like, one comment will kind of stay and motivate someone for the rest of their life. Do you think it's also a misconception? Very quickly, you mentioned, you know, playing in front of like 20 people. Do you think that's still a misconception in the music industry, where like you show up on the radio, it's like, oh, Tyler Shaw, like this is awesome, like with you, I love this song, and then it's like, he's new, and it's like, nah, he's been doing this for like 6 years. He just only got on the radio.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's still a misconception?
100%. Yeah, you hear about artists who get best new artists after they've been in the industry for like 12, 15 years, and it's like, I guess so, yeah. You know, I mean, an award's an award. I would take one now. You know, 8 years in, I would take one still.
Absolutely.
But you know what? Yeah, it's just, I don't think it's like, it shouldn't, what I'm trying to fucking say here, it shouldn't degrade the value of what you're doing. No. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. You see it with all the industries though. Like even in, like, I interview pro wrestlers. There are wrestlers that are on the independent circuit for like 10 years. Yeah. They show up to WWE, everyone's like, oh, he must be brand new. Right. And he's been kind of working in the wrestling scene more than like half the people in WWE.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. This was awesome.
My pleasure. Honestly, thanks for having me.
So Remember's out right now. They can get it wherever they listen to music.
That's right.
And where can they follow you on social media to keep up date with everything?
At Tyler Shaw Music on every single platform.
You got the consistency. Sometimes people aren't able to get the consistency.
Yeah.
Like 1 or 2 handles is different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Tyler Shaw's new single, Remember, is available now wherever you listen to music. And until next time, this is Tyler Shaw and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.